That quiet, unshakable sense of not enough. The one that tells you something's missing, even when everything seems perfectly in place. That subtle ache of dissatisfaction, that anger at yourself for not being utterly content. That's the feeling that changes everything. It's a feeling that might seem like a roadblock to your happiness, a signal that you're doing something wrong. But in fact, it's a crucial signpost. And there's an ancient story from over 2 millennia ago, passed down through generations, that quietly uncovers why this very feeling is actually your greatest, most unexpected teacher. Before we delve into that timeless tale, I want you to pause for a moment. Think about that precise feeling of it's not quite right, that subtle discontent. When did you last feel it? What was the situation? Maybe it was after a big achievement or simply waking up on a seemingly perfect morning. Share it in the comments below. Just knowing you're not alone in grappling with this can be a quiet comfort in itself. Our story begins, as many profound transformations do, with an ordinary life shattered by extraordinary grief. Imagine a young woman named Kisagotami, living in a small village, much like any other, filled with the simple rhythms of daily life. She was married, had a home, and then the greatest joy of her life arrived, a beautiful baby boy. Her world revolved around him. His tiny hands, his soft breath, the way his eyes would light up when she entered the room. Every sunrise was a promise, every sunset a contented sigh, all wrapped up in the innocent presence of her child. She imagined his future, his growth, her own life unfolding alongside his. He was her future, her joy, her very reason for being. But life, as it always does, brought the inevitable. One ordinary morning, Kisagotami awoke to a mother's worst nightmare. Her precious son, vibrant and full of life just hours before, lay still. His breath had ceased. His tiny body was cold. Can you imagine that moment? The sheer, incomprehensible shock? The world stops. Time freezes. Every sound fades, replaced by the ringing silence of absolute despair. A mother's heart, torn from its mooring, flailing. She refused to accept it. Her child couldn't be gone. Not her child. This was a mistake, a cruel trick of fate. She clutched his lifeless body, rocking him, begging him to wake up. Her cries, raw and piercing, echoed through the small house, then out into the dusty streets. She ran, frantic, through the village, clutching her son, his small weight now an unbearable burden of loss, pleading with anyone she met, "Please, is there anyone who can bring my son back to life? My baby boy needs to wake up." The villagers, kind but helpless, could only offer their pity. Some suggested a doctor, knowing it was futile. Others gently tried to explain the unexplainable, but grief is deaf. It hears only its own unbearable pain. Kisagotami refused to lay her son down. She refused to let go. Eventually, someone, perhaps tired of her inconsolable wailing or genuinely moved by her anguish, directed her to a wise teacher who lived nearby. "Go to the Buddha," they said. "He is the enlightened one. Perhaps he can help you." With a flicker of desperate hope, Kisagotami made her way to where the Buddha was teaching. She laid her child at his feet, tears streaming, her voice raw. "Master, my son has died. Please, bring him back to life." The Buddha looked at her with profound compassion. He did not dismiss her. He did not tell her to accept her loss. Instead, he spoke softly. "Go, my dear, I can help you. But first, you must bring me a single mustard seed." A mustard seed? Kisagotami's heart leaped. A simple task for such a monumental miracle. She was ready to scour the earth for a mustard seed if it meant her son would live again. But then, the Buddha added a crucial condition, a quiet whisper that held the weight of the entire universe. "Bring me a mustard seed from a house where no one has ever died." Kisagotami, still caught in the whirlwind of her grief and desperate hope, didn't fully grasp the weight of his words. She simply nodded, picked up her son, and began her renewed quest. She went from door to door, house to house, clutching her child, asking the same question. "I need a mustard seed for my son to live. Have you ever known death in this house?" At the first house, a kind woman opened the door, her face etched with a familiar weariness. "Yes," she said, her voice soft. "We have mustard seeds, a whole jar, but sorrow has touched this home many times. My husband died last year, my mother before him, and my own child was lost in a fever." Kisagotami thanked her, her hope slightly dimmed, and moved on. At the next house, a father welcomed her, his eyes holding a distant sadness. Mustard seeds? Of course. But my eldest daughter, a mere child, was taken by fever just last winter, and my parents are long gone. Again, no seed could be given from a house that knew no sorrow. House after house, Kisagotami repeated her plea. From grand mansions to humble huts, the story was always the same. My parents died. My brother was killed. We lost a child. My grandparents are gone. The faces changed, the stories varied, but the answer was always rooted in loss, in the undeniable reality of death. As the day wore on and the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, something profound shifted within Kisagotami. The initial feverish hope slowly gave way to a dawning, profound realization. Her desperation, her fierce refusal to accept her son's death as unique to her, began to dissolve like mist. Every single home she visited, every single family, had known this same ache, this same unbearable loss. She was not alone in her suffering. Her grief, while intensely personal, was also universally shared, a thread connecting all human hearts. She walked slowly back, not running now, but with a quiet, heavy purpose. She didn't have the mustard seed. She couldn't find a single home untouched by death. When she reached the Buddha, she simply laid her son down, a final, accepting gesture. Her tears still flowed, but they were different now. They were tears of understanding, of connection, not just personal despair. The Buddha looked at her. "Did you find the mustard seed?" he asked softly. Kisagotami shook her head. "No, master," she replied, her voice calm, clear, and full of a newfound wisdom. "I could not. There is no house untouched by loss. Suffering is universal. This, right here, is the moment everything changes. Not the magic of a mustard seed bringing life, but the quiet, undeniable truth that settled into Kisagotami's heart. This understanding, this recognition of suffering, or, in ancient Pali, dukkha, as an inherent part of all existence, is the feeling that transforms everything you chase, everything you avoid, and ultimately, everything you believe about happiness. You, much like Kisagotami, often embark on a similar quest. You chase after a happiness that is perfect, constant, and utterly free from any hint of pain or discomfort. It's a deeply human impulse, one I recognize in myself. You look for that metaphorical house where no one has ever died, a job without stress, a relationship without friction, a body without aches, a mind without doubts. And when that subtle ache of dissatisfaction arrives, when that whisper of "this isn't enough" surfaces, you often interpret it as a personal failing. You think, if only I tried harder, if only I had more, if only I were different, then this feeling would disappear. Then I would finally be happy. Truly, completely happy, just like they seem to be. You believe you can find an exception to the rule of life where everything aligns perfectly and stays that way. This craving, this relentless pursuit of an ideal state, is often the very thing that perpetuates that quiet ache. It's the engine of that subtle dissatisfaction, the feeling that says, "I am not yet there, and therefore I am not yet complete." But Kisagotami's journey showed us a different path. Her profound realization wasn't about finding a magic cure, but about seeing the truth of things as they are. And I've always been struck by the quiet power in that acceptance. When you truly grasp that dukkha, this inherent unsatisfactoriness, this subtle discord, this impermanence, is woven into the very fabric of existence for everyone. It isn't a defeat. It's a liberation. It means that the feeling of "it's not quite right" isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're human. It means that the quiet dissatisfaction isn't a personal flaw to be eradicated, but a universal experience to be understood. This understanding itself is a powerful shift. Imagine the weight that lifts when you stop fighting against the fundamental nature of reality, when you stop blaming yourself for feeling what is, in essence, a part of the human condition. When you realize that even those you perceive as perfectly content are, in their own way, navigating the same currents of impermanence and change, just like you. This doesn't mean you stop pursuing joy or making your life better. Quite the opposite. This new feeling, this acceptance, this profound understanding of impermanence, or anicca as it's known in Pali, completely reshapes your relationship with happiness. You stop chasing a fleeting sensation as if it were a permanent state because you understand that nothing, not even joy, truly lasts forever. Instead of building your life around the avoidance of that subtle ache, you begin to build it on a foundation of presence. You learn to appreciate the brief, shining moments of joy without desperately clinging to them, knowing they too will pass. And crucially, you learn to meet moments of discomfort or dissatisfaction not with resistance and self-blame, but with a quiet curiosity and even a gentle compassion for your own human experience. You stop asking, "How can I get rid of this feeling?" and start asking, "What is this feeling trying to teach me about the nature of life itself?" This shift is subtle, but its impact is immense. It's the difference between trying to paddle upstream against a relentless current and learning to navigate the river with skill and grace, allowing the water to carry you when necessary. The greatest illusion we often carry is that happiness is a state achieved by eliminating all unhappiness. But life isn't a switch that flips from off to on for good. It's a vast, rich tapestry woven with threads of every color imaginable: joy, sorrow, excitement, boredom, peace, and that quiet, undeniable ache of something not being quite complete. When you truly understand Kisagotami's lesson, you stop trying to snip out all the darker threads. You begin to appreciate the whole pattern. You realize that the feeling of dissatisfaction, when met with understanding rather than resistance, can actually deepen your capacity for joy. It teaches you to hold both the lightness and the shadow, to live fully in the suchness of life, as it is, not as you wish it were, embracing every moment. It doesn't mean becoming numb or indifferent. Far from it. It means becoming more awake, more present, more compassionate, both with yourself and with the world around you. It's about finding a quiet, abiding peace that isn't dependent on external circumstances, but arises from an internal wisdom that understands the ebb and flow of all things. This understanding, this feeling of interconnected impermanence and universal experience, allows you to drop the endless, exhausting search for perfect, permanent happiness. And in doing so, you often find a deeper, more resilient form of contentment right where you are right now. The feeling that truly changes everything, then, isn't happiness itself, but the profound, quiet wisdom that arises when you truly accept impermanence and the universal nature of all experience. It's the understanding that the subtle ache you carry is not a flaw, but a gateway to a deeper, more compassionate way of being, a way that ultimately brings a more genuine, lasting peace. This is a truth that once seen can't be unseen. It's a quiet knowing that you are, in fact, exactly where you need to be to begin. What unexpected truth about life have you discovered through your own struggles or moments of quiet disillusionment?